I picked up a new book, Girl Wash Your Face by Rachel Hollis. I have listened to this as an audiobook before, read by her, and that was an awesome experience. But I found this at Goodwill for $1.99, so obviously I couldn't resist. And so I'm reading through it again, and I can still hear her narrating it, and it's great. But chapter 10 kind of just hit me upside the head, and I was like, I need to make a video about this. So she basically was saying that she was hanging out with some women, and they were talking about birthdays and whether or not they like to celebrate it. And the general consensus of the group was, no, we don't like celebrating our birthdays. And she was flabbergasted because she's always loved celebrating her birthday. And so she wanted to dig a little deeper and see why they didn't like celebrating their birthdays. So I'm gonna read the section that really just hit me. I know that women don't like growing older. That cliche has been around for as long as we've recorded history, I'm sure. But I had never really asked anyone why they felt that way. So I asked this group of ladies. I wanted to know what they disliked so much about growing older. The answer, at its core, was the same for every single person. I expected some reference to looking older or even feeling older physically. I'd always assumed it had to do with lost youth, and maybe for certain people that's true. But this group's issue with passing time wasn't about what was happening. They disliked growing older because of what wasn't happening. You see, they'd all made plans. As little girls or adolescents or women in their early 20s, they'd made all sorts of them. Little plans and big plans and grandiose shoot-for-the-moon plans that they assumed would have been accomplished long before now. And while they had checked many things off their list, there were still those nagging few, the hanging chads of wishes and dreams that still hadn't come to fruition. So, for them, birthdays served as a reminder of all the things they hadn't achieved. For some, they fell short of a career or financial goal. Others wanted to be married or have children. They had set themselves on some sort of course long ago, and each year they didn't reach that preconceived destination was a harsh reminder of the promises they were breaking to themselves. And she went on to acknowledge that, yeah, she has felt defeated by goals that she didn't meet, that she felt had expiration dates, but how that mentality of, if I haven't achieved something by now, I'm somehow worthless, is not doing any of us any good. We're focusing all of our attention on the absence of something. And she went on to bring out an analogy of if a little baby takes their first steps and toddles across from the coffee table to the couch, you don't look at them and go, yes, Chloe, that's fine, but why aren't you running by now? You wouldn't do that. That just doesn't make sense. And yet we do that to ourselves all the time. When we have a goal that we thought we would have achieved by now, or a life event that we thought would have happened by now, and it hasn't, we can feel like we're falling behind, or we're not where we're supposed to be. But in my own life, I have had to come to the conclusion that timelines are not arbitrary, and just because one person has something at a certain age doesn't mean you need to have it by that age. And all of our timelines look different, and that's fine, and we each have our own lives, and we need to stop focusing on what everyone else is doing or what society says we should be doing, and just focus on doing our best with what we currently have and where we're currently at. And yes, there have been many things in my life that have not gone to the timeline that I have wanted, but I've had the opportunity to see how the timeline that did happen was so much better than the timeline that I wanted. One example is my college career. I originally started college as a dual credit freshman at 16, and if I had stuck with my original declared major, I would have graduated at 19 from college with a 2-year degree. But since I was young and I hadn't really even thought about what I wanted to do with my life before the moment that I was thrown into college, I ended up changing my major 3 times, and after 3.5 years of being in community college, I dropped out, and it has now been 4 years since I was in college. And I can tend to kick myself because I could have graduated at 19. I could have been making good money all these years. But if I had graduated at 19, I probably would still be back in Idaho. I probably wouldn't have started this YouTube channel. I wouldn't have moved to Michigan. I wouldn't have met all the people that I know here. I wouldn't have had all the amazing experiences that I've had out here. And yes, it's frustrating because it feels like I wasted 4 years of my life, but they weren't wasted. I went through so much healing in those years, and I honestly wouldn't really have had it any other way. And now, if all goes according to plan, I will be going back to college this fall to finish the first degree that I started. And that is terrifying because it's been 4 years since I've been in college, and I'm like, do I even remember how to be a good college student? Like, it's exciting, but it's also scary because there are so many unknowns, and I'm gonna have to move again and find a new apartment, and there's just so much adulting that'll need to be done all over again, and I really don't want to have to deal with all that stuff, but that will get me to the place that I want to go. And I'm ultimately excited because I know that I will enjoy this degree and it'll set me up for a lot better of a life, and it'll keep me in the area for the next at least 2 years, probably 3 years. So it has been interesting to process through it though, because I'll be starting college as a 23-year-old instead of a 16-year-old. And I won't graduate until I'm 25. And I thought that my life would look way different at 25 than it probably will. But so far in my journey, I have been able to look back and not wish that anything had been different. So I trust that it will be the same. And when I do graduate and I do find a good job, I won't regret that it is years later than I was hoping for. So if you are struggling with your timeline, wishing that you were in a different place than you are right now, don't rush yourself. Don't beat yourself up for choices that you wish you had made differently. You can't go back and change the past. The only thing you can change is from here on out. So focus on the things that you can change. Focus on getting to where you want to be and changing the future from here on out, and taking the steps that need to be taken to get to that place.